All right, guys, we are live. What's going on today? Happy Tuesday. Hopefully your Monday was stellar and you guys were able to win some money playing a little NBA DFS. We got ourselves a new slate today. So whether last night was good or bad, let's get back after it today, try to make that money, watch ourselves a little basketball, and start prepping for the NFL playoffs, which will be here shortly.
Yeah, big week, all sports going on, man. A really big weekend. 3 NFL playoff games each day, and then Ohio State game Monday night, national championship. Unfortunately, the COVID with the Browns just happened, which definitely brings my hypeness down a notch. I will tell you that for sure.
Win it for Stefanski. I don't know. It's not a good situation. You're right. So we'll see how the week plays out, but it's definitely not ideal for you. Not the greatest way to go, guys. So I just wanted to bring something up. Obviously, part of the reasons we do these videos is we are trying to get, new customers. So some of the stuff that we're able to post at the end of the day and talk about is just going to be better than stuff we talk about early during the day. So specifically, I posted about Peyton Pritchard. I saw later you posted about Peyton Pritchard as one of the guys that we both loved a lot for this slate. He went out, he was fantastic last night, but it's really difficult to talk those things over during the day because we didn't know about Marcus Smart until the last minute. So again, obviously one of the reasons we're on here talking is we like to get you guys to, pay for our DFS services. We try to get the best information out there during the day, but NBA DFS is just not conducive to the best information coming out early in the day.
No, it's not. So, of course, our members get the edge of being in our Facebook groups. We're actually about to launch a Discord, which is just going to even help us even more. So, yeah, just on that point below, I mean, I know that, I posted a bunch last night, and I'm constantly posting because NBA is constantly changing.
So just a little bit of that. And don't forget to check out Overlay, guys. Again, what you will start to do, the progressive jackpot stuff, but NBA keeps throwing everybody for loops with all this stuff. I know that happens throughout the day. Hopefully today, let's get on here and let's talk about Overlay out later in the day. Maybe with the game starting a half hour later today, we can go through the progressive jackpot. I know they've been really hyping Wolfpack winning the 20 grand last year as that NBA jackpot continues to build. Try to get our money in over there and try to win big money for everybody. But even if you can't get into the progressive tournament jackpots, guys, they got this thing called the matchup shop. Yesterday, I made a little Instagram video about a play that I liked, and that was Nikola Vucevic over Andre Drummond. You were getting points on that one. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, Vucevic just beat Drummond straight up.
Yeah, man. I don't know what the deal is with Drummond. Vooch definitely beat him straight up.
Yeah, and that was my big point is Drummond just seems to have already fallen out of favor in Cleveland a little bit as far as consistent playing time. Like a full 36 minutes of Andre Drummond, I never want to bet against, but he just isn't in there all the time consistently like that. And they really seem to love JaVale McGee over there.
He's playing well, too. So, you can't really argue with them.
No, McGee's more athletic than Drummond as well, which can be something that you need some days.
They both stink at basketball.
Great point. All right, guys, promotion for the day. It's called 2 for Tuesday. Buy a day pass, $5. You get the write-up in the video for today. You will also get tomorrow's free of charge. All that is done through the link below to the website. Real simple. $5 for 2 days as opposed to $5 for one, 2 for Tuesday. Also, we came up short yesterday on the likes for the video. We only got to about 160. So if we can push it for 200 today or at least get really, really close, we'll get a members video out to the public this week. All you got to do is slide your finger over to the thumbs up button. You help us, we'll help you. Let's get after it today, and let's talk about our favorite plays of the day. And we will stick with the new format, and we'll move over to my cash game lock of the day. But I do want to talk about this one with a little bit of caveats, guys. So today, the Utah Jazz travel to Brooklyn to take on the Nets. We already know that Spencer Dinwiddie is out for the year with an ACL injury. KD is now out for at least 4 games. If everything works hunky-dory with the COVID protocols, he'll be back after a 4-game hiatus, but we know that he's out for at least 4 games. This is huge opportunities for a really good player in Karis LeVert. Clearly, without Kevin Durant around, that opens up like 30 points, 10 rebounds, 20-plus shots, a buttload of usage, and a ton of minutes for other guys on the Brooklyn Nets. I think the most logical guy to see an extra uptick in minutes and usage and just production, because he's actually good at the game of basketball, is going to be Karis LeVert. He's only 6,600. He's got an opportunity to smash on that price tag. He should get plenty of love today. But the point that I want to discuss with you for the public today is I do care if he is starting. A lot of times I tell people starting, not starting is fool's gold, but there are specific situations, and this is one where I'm looking for coach buy-in. And what I mean by that, When Kyrie and Kevin missed the game against the Grizzlies, you saw LeVert starting. You knew he was going to have a usage rate that was, beyond high. You knew he'd be out there playing a ton of minutes. However, if he's coming off the bench again today, I am not as sold on him because I'm not 100% sure what the coach wants to do with him. Still, if he's coming off the bench, he still has an opportunity to play big minutes. But I do care that he is starting for Kevin Durant today because that means to me that the coach is like, I need you and Kyrie out there just, snapping necks and cashing checks. And if he's coming off the bench, I'm not as sold on him.
I don't really care. I guess my counter to you would be like, if the coach starts him, they're out there, he wants them to do their thing with Kyrie. Well, it's better for him if he's not playing with Kyrie. That's just a fact for DFS purposes. Like, his numbers are better without Kyrie. So I think he's going to play big minutes regardless. There's no Durant. He already plays good minutes. I'm not worried about it because I think that if they keep him off the bench, they're just trying to keep him in his role. And I think I'm not going to be surprised if he's starting because they're going to need that offense. And he's obviously, better than a sixth man. He's the logical replacement to Durant. But I also am not going to be surprised if they just keep it how it's going and move in like a Taurean Prince into the lineup.
And that's possible, right? We're yet to watch. This is the first game this year that we're going to see with Kyrie, but without Kevin. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen here.
Do you think that if he's starting, he plays more minutes than if he's off the bench?
I think it shows almost virtual guaranteed buy-in from the coach that he's going to be playing bigger minutes, whereas maybe they just want to keep him fresh all season and that he's only going to play 26, 27, 28 minutes off the bench. If he's starting, I feel more comfortable with him playing in the mid-30s.
Okay, that's fair.
Doesn't mean I'm right, guys. And I will tell you right now, there is no way to know for 100% certainty, so I could easily be wrong on that. I just feel a little comfier, a little warmer, and a little bit more at ease if I know that he's in the starting lineup tonight.
I get that.
So, again, though, I think I'm probably going to run him either way. But as far as the warm and fuzzies are concerned, that would be my one little bugaboo right there.
I get that. I get that. No arguments.
Okay. Let's flip around over to the GPP play of the day from your sense of the word. And this is a guy that has had himself some moments so far this year. And I think a big point that you like, Derek White's back out. So there's no reason to think that he's not the big old point guard out there for pretty much every minute of this game.
Yeah, so listen, I'm a big Murray fan. I feel like he's kind of like Dylan Brooks for me. He's a guy I bring up a lot. I like him. He's been good for me in the past. He'll be good for me again. He's in a good spot here. San Antonio, we talked about this slate, in depth on our members only video. There's a few games, specifically like the last 3 games, that look like they could be blowouts. But if they're not blowouts, they have big GPP potential. And one of those games is San Antonio and the Clippers. I think if San Antonio keeps this competitive, it's got high upside all around it. And one of the biggest high upside, especially dollar for dollar plays, is going to be Dejounte Murray. We've seen him hit big upside off this price tag in half his games this season. In the other half of the games, he obviously hasn't played very well, but there's been reasons for that. Blowout concerns, Derek White being in, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I just think he's got massive upside at pretty low ownership, specifically because it's hard to get here at the guard position. We talked about this in the members only video. There's so many good guard plays tonight. I can't see a lot of people prioritizing Dejounte Murray. I will, though, because I think he's got 7x upside here in a spot that the Spurs, have a big upside if they can keep this game close.
I also like him better, as with our next play that we're about to talk about after this, if Kawhi's out. So
sure,
the Clippers, almost talked about Kawhi's old team there for a second, play in Golden State tomorrow. And as per pretty standard, Kawhi is very unlikely to play one of the legs of the back-to-back. I haven't heard anything about which game it is. So, keep your eyes peeled. I know one of the reasons you love playing guys in later games is not just the lower ownership. It also gives you the flexibility to make moves if it comes out a half hour before the game, for example, that Kawhi is not active for this one. I just like this game better to be competitive. I think this hurts the Clippers' team defense. If Kawhi Leonard's not out there, he's still a very, very good defender. So why wouldn't it hurt their team defense? So it doesn't mean that he's not in play with Kawhi in there. But both plays that we're bringing up right here and the next one, how much we like him might have a little bit to do with the availability of Kawhi Leonard. Not that I don't like both guys with or without him, but when you're making like those coin flip decisions, little things like that matter.
For sure, no doubt about it.
And you mentioned it. There is a buttload of guards available today.
Yes, there are.
So speaking of guards, one of the guys that we both like today is going to be Los Angeles Clippers' only shooting guard right now, Paul George, which is going to really eat into his ownership today because of the abundance of guards. If he was a small forward still, I think he would get even more love in this situation. But Paul George, I'm a Paul George hater. I own that one. I don't like how he comes up small in big spots, but I've been very, very impressed by him so far this year. He's playing well. You used the term chip on his shoulder. He definitely appears to have that. He's been really good this year. So throughout that game against Dallas, which is just, I don't even count that, right? It's just, let's pretend like that bad boy didn't happen. He had a less than stellar DFS game when they rolled on Minnesota because he didn't have to play in the fourth quarter, but he did play very, very well in that game. San Antonio is no longer the defensive threat that they were in the heydays of the Popovich and Tim Duncan Spurs. That is long gone. That is not something that's a concern right here either. He's stuffing the stat sheet. He's averaging almost 2 steals a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 25 points, hitting threes at an abundance of rates. This game might have a little bit of a blowout concern, but literally every game and almost every slate these days has some blowout concerns. So you can't over worry about something like this. I just like what my eyes are telling me. I like what the numbers are telling me. He's playing very, very well so far this year.
So, yeah, he's definitely playing with that chip on his shoulder. You saw him and Devin Booker get into it last game. He's got 50-plus in the past 3. And as far as competitive games go, if the Clippers, it's hard to see the Spurs rolling here. It just is. They're just not as good of a team as the Clippers. So if the Clippers roll, it's a good bet that Paul George played well, at least in his time out there. Maybe he doesn't have like the ultimate upside if he's resting in the fourth quarter, but I'm sure that he was just fine for you if that's the case. And in a close game here, I think it's close because both teams are scoring and it's a faster paced game. I don't think it's like a defensive oriented game. I think the offense in this game is better than the defense. And I think you'll see Paul George have a good game no matter what. Now, the upside obviously depends on how competitive the game is and whether Kawhi plays.
Well, and again, that's what the thing with Kawhi right here is if Kawhi's out, then Paul George is chalky.
Well, that's the point, though, about what you were saying earlier, like about why I like the flexibility. If we find out Kawhi is out right now, then Paul George might be one of the highest owned players on the slate. But if we don't find out until after the Brooklyn-Utah game starts, his ownership will be cut in half at least.
No doubt about it. The availability at only guard right here because people are going to be looking at Kyrie. They're going to be looking at Karis LeVert. They're going to be looking at Donovan Mitchell. They're going to be looking from guards from a variety of spots, and that really kills your ability to play him in that situation. So you keep your eyes peeled all day long, and how you evaluate Paul George has a lot to do with the availability of Kawhi. Kawhi might play tonight. I don't know. Maybe they rest him tomorrow at Golden State. We have no idea yet.
I like how you brought up that point about making the late posts and stuff like that, because that really it's a good video to bring that up on, because we want to get these videos out and we like Paul George a lot, but obviously stuff changes as the day goes on and these teams practice and have walkthroughs and guys are sick and whatever the case may be. Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been dealing with this stuff for years and it's just worse right now because of COVID.
Right, like the other part of that post was my like for some of the New York Knicks guys against Atlanta, but I struggled to speak as much conviction about RJ Barrett as I had later in the day during the day, because if Alec Burks was around, and I think he might lose like 5-6 minutes off the bench, I'm not going to like somebody as much. That is NBA DFS in a nutshell. It is an evolving organism throughout the day, and things are very often best served. Like I don't usually start really making my lineups, like even trying to, until like an hour before lock.
It's a fool's errand, right? Like, because one change changes everything. Like one guy being in, out, whatever that you don't expect changes everything. And when you start making lineups before, at least me, someone who's a hand builder, like I like fall in love with the guys. And then if I'm making a lineup and news comes out where there's better plays, I struggle to get off the plays I've already been on. Where if I haven't built my lineups, like I just have a clearer mind, if that makes sense.
There's a lot of emotional stuff that goes into this and getting locked into things that maybe you don't want to change. And again, we've all been on both sides of that, right? Where you make a last minute change and it wins you all the money or it loses everything because it was a dumb, idiotic change. But that's just DFS for everyone.
Yes, for sure. I think that just waiting to make lineups is a smarter way to do it.
All right, so let's move over to the long shots of the day. So yesterday we kind of featured some long shots from the Milwaukee versus Detroit game. But Detroit fought in that game. I watched part of that game, not all of it. The Pistons did a great job of fighting. So guys that we were kind of looking at specifically didn't get as much run in the fourth quarter as we want because the Pistons did an excellent job of keeping that game relevant. Every time you thought the Bucks were about to run them out of the gym, it just didn't quite happen because, again, I'll give the Pistons credit for playing hard despite being completely devoid of good talent. So long shots are going to be all over the place today, but the one I want to talk about is the guys, specifically Jeff Green, but just overall the guys from the Brooklyn Nets today. So without Kevin Durant around, we all know that opens up a ton of minutes, a ton of shots, a ton of usage, assists, rebounds, you name it. And the guys that you can look at, there's going to be Jeff Green. There's going to be Timothy, we'll just call him TLC because I'm struggling to sound his name right now. We got Torian Prince, Landry Shamet. Like all these guys could be in line for some extra minutes and some extra shots. We also don't 100% know how they're going to handle it because they may not even know. Like it could be like if Torian Prince hits 4 threes in the first quarter, like he might see extra run tonight. A guy that I think goes under the radar is going to be Jeff Green. We've seen Jeff Green play for all 32 teams now at this point. It seems like he's had some really, really nice moments in the NBA. He's also been a complete afterthought at many moments. He's another guy. When he starts playing well, he can put up DFS points in a hurry. He's also like 9 minutes and 3.5 DK points waiting to happen. So that's why he's going to fall under the long shot category. This, however, could change. You know, I talked about how I think Karis LeVert might be a starter today. There's a possibility that the Nets do something weird and a guy like Jeff Green becomes a starter, at which point he's no longer a long shot. He becomes kind of cash game chalk at 3,100 at the power forward position. So he's my long shotter right now, but there's going to be a variety of long shots from the Brooklyn Nets today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'll say one thing for sure that I will bet you on no matter what. If Torian Prince hits 4 threes in the first quarter, he will see extra run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, for all we know, Prince doesn't play any extra minutes today, and that's all that they want him for is 15 to 20 minutes today, take a couple threes, give us a couple rebounds, and move on your way. Or maybe they look at it as like he's our guy for the next 4 games. We're going to run him deep and hopefully get him feeling comfortable. That could be Jeff Green. It could be Shamet. For all we know, a guy like Bruce Brown comes out of nowhere to play minutes.
I agree with all those points. I like the point of bringing up Jeff Green just for that point in itself. I think you can take a look at a bunch of guys from the Nets as long shots, especially for multi-enterers. It's hard to get to a guy like Green in one lineup. He is 3,100, though. So, like, he is a guy that when he gets significant run can put up DFS points.
He was awesome for the Rockets, if you guys remember down the stretch last year. This is a guy that was dropping 35, 40, 45 DK point games. Now, it's a completely different system. His role on this team is completely different, no doubt about it. We all know that. But he's been in the NBA, and I kind of joke around every single team for a reason because he's a capable NBA player.
He is, but there aren't many guys that go from like being, like you just mentioned, like very capable and like you're like, why isn't this guy getting more run to like a guy who is like the 11th, 12th man who doesn't get any time, depending on what team, what situation he's in.
Like, don't get me wrong. TLC will be starting again today, and he's probably your safest bet for guaranteed DFS points out of all the Nets guys today that are really, really cheap. But when you're playing long shots, it doesn't mean that he's going to guaranteed outscore Landry Shamet, Jeff Green, Torian Prince, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So play the ownership game if you're interested in deeper GPPs. Next up, so your long shot of the day, and I don't know why it's now switching to coming up the bullet points like this. Is like not a long shot. It's hard because I want you to be able to see all the things we're talking about, and I also want to remember them for my own sake. J-Val's not a long shot to play minutes, but I think he's a long shot by ownership discrepancy today. I don't think he gets a lot of love. Like, what would be your guess on his ownership percentage today?
5%.
That's about what I was going to say. So I think we're in the same boat on that one.
Like, pretty damn low. Low enough where, like, and I know you can get on board on this. Like, ownership, I think, is overrated a lot just because, like, you play the guys that you want to play unless it's like a big discrepancy. Like, we talk about a guy like TLC who's going to be 40% owned. Like, yeah, in situations, like, I could see not wanting to use that guy. Or a guy like J-Val at 5% owned who's got massive upside, who just hasn't shown it recently, but we know who he is. I think the big thing that you brought up that makes it hard to play him is the minutes. However, his price is down. We know sooner rather than later he's got a 50-point in-game coming. You called it with the Kings that Holmes was going to get into foul trouble. Whiteside was going to come in and have a day. Well, he had 3 blocks in like 30 seconds. Ended up not seeing the court after that. But I have a similar feeling towards J-Val. One of these games, he's going to go off for like 15 and 10 in the first quarter, and they're just going to keep feeding him. It might not be tonight, but at 5% owned, now under 8K, he's got 50-point upside every time he steps on the court. Talk about him.
Okay, so the other thing here, and this is not something that I normally look at because I think more often than not, it's just, it's us as people who talk about sports looking for a reason to pick somebody when it just doesn't really matter to them. However, a couple of years back, Valanciunas was traded from the Toronto Raptors basically for Marc Gasol, who is now the center for the Los Angeles Lakers. Might give him a little extra motivation to play a little bit harder right here. Like, y'all gave up on me. And I know the Raptors aren't even involved in this game, but like he might look at that as like somebody that he just kind of wants to give it to right now. So if you're looking for like that extra little bit, maybe it's that extra little bit if you're looking for a reason to play him tonight. I'm a big J-Val guy. Most of you guys probably know that. He's done me dirty enough times that I've soured on him a little bit, but he is a guy that was dropping 50 and 60 on the regular at times for this Memphis Grizzlies team. Now, the Lakers are much better than Memphis without Morant around, but that doesn't mean that the Lakers don't just look at this as like a look past type of game. They kind of beat Memphis fairly easily the other day in one of these back-to-back type of sets, so maybe they're just coasting a little bit today. And, the Grizzlies play their best life in the first quarter, and J-Val drops a double-double in the first quarter.
And I will say this, as far as the minutes go, their last 3 games have been blowout-y, especially in the fourth quarter. And we know that, listen, if you get a game that's out of hand, J-Val's going to be one of the first guys that loses run because they're just not going to run him in extended time when they don't need to. However, the game against Brooklyn like 3 games ago, I think it went to overtime. He played 39 minutes, so 34 minutes in regulation in a very competitive game. All of a sudden, if you get a real tight game here, I mean, he could play bigger minutes. Not every game, but on the right spot, he can.
Yeah, exactly. So there's upside to be had at lower ownership. And as we discussed this slate in a lot of detail in the members only video, this was the game that we kept skipping. You know what I mean? This was the game that we thought a lot of people really wouldn't pay a lot of attention to, which is just going to keep his ownership really, really low. And the other point is, like, Jokic is a strong play every day. But outside of him, the center position is a little bit weaker today. And I love Jokic, but the guy's been hacking like crazy lately. Minnesota is awful, so Denver could just, there's always the scenario that Denver rolls and Jokic could potentially, only give you 40 today. Well, Valanciunas could give you, say, 45 and also give you an extra $3,000 to spend.
Amen.
So, all right, guys, that's what we got for today. If you want the members only video, obviously the day passes are up, but also 200 likes and we'll drop one free for the public.
Yep, let's get it, guys. Thank you.